The WWE Universe just witnessed something that nobody saw coming, and trust me when I say this changes everything we thought we knew about Monday Night Raw. Bronson Reed has just turned his back on Bron Breakker in one of the most brutal and shocking betrayals in recent WWE history, and the fallout from this is going to be massive. Before we dive into all the jaw-dropping details of what went down, make sure you hit that subscribe button right now because you don't want to miss any of the explosive content we've got coming your way. Monday Night Raw has always been the place where careers are made and alliances are shattered, but what happened this week takes things to a completely different level. The night started off with high energy as usual, with the crowd absolutely electric and ready for whatever was about to unfold. Nobody in that arena and nobody watching at home could have predicted that by the end of the night we would be talking about one of the most vicious attacks we've seen in months. Bronson Reed has been building momentum for weeks now, and his partnership with Bron Breakker seemed like it was going to be one of those dominant forces that would tear through the entire roster. These two powerhouses looked unstoppable together, and every time they stepped into that ring they brought an intensity that had fans on the edge of their seats. The show was rolling along with several matches and segments keeping everyone engaged, but there was this underlying tension that you could feel even through the screen. Bron Breakker had a match scheduled against a tough competitor, and everyone expected Bronson Reed to have his back like he had been doing for the past several weeks. Their chemistry had been undeniable, and it seemed like they were on the path to capturing gold together. The WWE Universe had fully bought into this partnership, and speculation was running wild about what titles they might pursue and what legendary teams they might face off against. Everything seemed to be going according to plan, and there was no indication whatsoever that we were about to witness one of the most stunning turns in recent memory. When Breakker's match began, the atmosphere was charged with anticipation. He came out with his usual intensity and aggression, showing why he's considered one of the most dangerous competitors on the Raw roster. The match itself was hard-hitting and physical, with both men throwing everything they had at each other. Breakker was dominating for stretches, showing off his incredible strength and technical ability, while his opponent was fighting back with everything in their arsenal, trying to find any opening to gain an advantage. The back-and-forth action had the crowd completely invested, and the noise level in the arena was reaching fever pitch with every near fall and big move. As the match progressed, there were moments where it looked like Breakker might need some assistance. His opponent was proving to be more resilient than expected and was starting to mount a serious comeback. This was exactly the kind of situation where having a partner like Bronson Reed in your corner makes all the difference. The camera kept cutting to the entrance ramp, and everyone was waiting for Reed to make his presence known, either to intimidate the opponent or to provide that psychological edge that Breakker needed to finish the match. But Reed was nowhere to be seen, and with each passing minute his absence became more noticeable and more concerning. Breakker managed to dig deep and find another gear, pulling out some of his most devastating moves to keep control of the match. The physicality was off the charts, and you could see both competitors were giving absolutely everything they had. The crowd was firmly behind Breakker, cheering him on and willing him to victory. He hit a massive slam that shook the entire ring and went for the cover, but somehow his opponent kicked out at 2 and the arena erupted. The energy was absolutely insane, and it felt like we were building towards something huge, but nobody could have guessed what was actually about to happen. Just when it seemed like Breakker was about to put his opponent away and secure the victory, the lights in the arena flickered for just a moment. That brief interruption caused a distraction, and Breakker turned his attention toward the entranceway, clearly confused about what was going on. His opponent used this momentary lapse in concentration to roll out of the ring and catch their breath, trying to regroup and figure out a new strategy. Breakker was standing in the middle of the ring looking around, trying to understand what just happened, when suddenly the crowd's reaction completely changed from excitement to absolute shock. Bronson Reed's music hit, and he came storming down to the ring with a look on his face that was completely different from anything we'd seen before. There was no friendly acknowledgement, no supportive gesture, nothing that suggested he was there to help his partner. The intensity radiating from Reed was almost frightening, and Breakker's expression showed that he immediately sensed something was wrong. Reed climbed into the ring, and for a split second there was this moment of uncertainty where Breakker seemed to be trying to figure out what was happening. He extended his hand in what looked like a gesture of partnership, but Reed just stared at him with cold, calculated fury in his eyes. What happened next was absolutely brutal and shocking in its violence. Reed exploded forward and hit Breakker with a devastating clothesline that turned him inside out. The impact was sickening, and the crowd let out a collective gasp that echoed throughout the entire arena. Breakker crashed to the mat, clearly stunned by the unexpected attack, but Reed wasn't finished, not by a long shot. He pulled Breakker up and launched him into the corner with tremendous force, and before Breakker could even process what was happening, Reed was charging in with a massive splash that crushed him against the turnbuckles. The sheer power behind the move was terrifying, and you could see the wind completely knocked out of Breakker. Reed dragged Breakker out of the corner and lifted him up for a thunderous powerbomb that drove him into the canvas with devastating impact. The ring shook from the force of the move, and Breakker's body bounced off the mat in a way that made everyone watching wince. But Reed still wasn't done with his former partner. He pulled Breakker up once again, this time setting him up for his signature tsunami splash from the top rope. The crowd was in complete disbelief as Reed climbed to the top turnbuckle, taking his time and soaking in the moment. There was something methodical and personal about the way he was dismantling Breakker, something that suggested this attack had been planned for quite some time. Reed launched himself off the top rope with his full 300+ pounds crashing down onto Breakker with the tsunami splash. The impact was absolutely sickening, and Breakker's body went completely limp from the devastating move. The referee immediately called for the bell and medical personnel started rushing to the ring, but Reed was blocking their path, standing over Breakker's motionless body with his arms raised in triumph. The look on Reed's face was one of satisfaction and vindication, as if he had just accomplished something he'd been thinking about for a very long time. The betrayal was complete and the message had been sent in the most brutal way possible. Security finally managed to get Reed out of the ring, and he walked up the ramp, slowly turning back several times to look at the destruction he had caused. The camera zoomed in on his face and there was no remorse, no second thoughts, just pure conviction in what he had done. Meanwhile, in the ring, medical staff were checking on Breakker, who was still down and clearly in serious pain. The concern on everyone's faces was genuine, and you could see fellow wrestlers coming out from the back to check on their colleague. The atmosphere had completely shifted from entertainment to genuine worry about Breakker's condition. The announcers were scrambling to make sense of what had just transpired. They ran through everything that had happened between Reed and Breakker over the past several weeks, trying to find any clue or hint that this betrayal was coming. But there was nothing. Every interaction between them had seemed genuine, every moment of partnership had looked solid. This made the attack even more shocking because there had been absolutely no warning signs. The commentary team speculated about possible reasons for the turn, discussing everything from jealousy to a potential behind-the-scenes deal to hidden resentment, but nothing seemed to fully explain the level of violence and brutality that Reed had just displayed. As Raw continued through its commercial break and into the next segment, the focus kept returning to what had happened. Backstage interviews were being conducted and reactions were pouring in from other superstars on the roster. Everyone seemed genuinely shocked by Reed's actions, and there was a lot of speculation about what might happen next. Some wrestlers expressed anger at the betrayal, calling it cowardly and uncalled for, while others seemed to understand that in the cutthroat world of professional wrestling sometimes you have to make hard decisions to advance your own career. The division among opinions added another layer to the story and made it clear that this situation was going to have ripple effects throughout the entire Raw roster. When the show returned from break, there was an update on Breakker's condition. The medical staff reported that he had suffered significant injuries from the attack and would need to undergo further evaluation. The news was concerning but not entirely unexpected given the brutality of what Reed had done. The fact that Breakker might be out of action for an extended period added real stakes to the storyline and gave Reed's betrayal even more weight. This wasn't just a simple turn, this was a calculated assault designed to take out a potential rival and send a message to everyone else on the roster. The final hour of Raw was filled with more reactions and discussions about the attack. General Manager Adam Pearce appeared on screen looking visibly upset about what had transpired. He condemned Reed's actions in the strongest possible terms and promised that there would be consequences for such an unprovoked and brutal assault. However, he stopped short of announcing any specific punishments, saying that he needed time to review the situation and consult with WWE officials before deciding on the appropriate course of action. This left things in an interesting place where fans knew punishment was coming but didn't know what form it would take. Social media absolutely exploded following the attack. Wrestling fans around the world were sharing their reactions, posting clips of the incident and debating what might happen next. The hashtags related to Reed and Breakker were trending worldwide within minutes of the attack, and the conversation showed no signs of slowing down. Some fans were praising Reed for making a bold move and establishing himself as a top heel on the roster, while others were expressing genuine anger at the betrayal and calling for severe consequences. The discourse was intense and passionate, showing just how invested the WWE Universe is in these storylines and characters. Various wrestling analysts and journalists started publishing their takes on the situation. Many pointed out that this kind of shocking moment is what makes professional wrestling so compelling. The ability to surprise the audience and create genuine emotional reactions is what separates great storylines from forgettable ones, and Reed's attack on Breakker definitely qualified as a great moment. Some analysts speculated that this could be the beginning of a long-term feud between the two that could main event premium live events and produce some incredible matches. Others suggested that Reed might be positioning himself for a major championship opportunity and that eliminating Breakker was the first step in that plan. The question on everyone's mind now is what comes next. Will Breakker be able to return and seek revenge against his former partner? How will Reed justify his actions when he's inevitably forced to address them? What kind of punishment will WWE management hand down for such a brutal attack? And perhaps most intriguingly, what other alliances and partnerships on Raw might now be in jeopardy? If Reed could turn on Breakker so suddenly and violently, then who's to say other teams are safe from similar betrayals? The sense of uncertainty and unpredictability is exactly what WWE wants to create, and this angle has succeeded brilliantly in doing just that. There's also the broader impact on the Raw landscape to consider. Reed and Breakker had been positioned as potential contenders for various championships, and now that partnership is destroyed, this opens up opportunities for other tag teams and also creates two dangerous singles competitors who will be looking to prove themselves. Reed in particular has established himself as one of the most dangerous and unpredictable forces on the roster. His willingness to attack his own partner shows that he's willing to do whatever it takes to succeed, and that makes him a threat to everyone. No alliance is safe, no partnership is secure, and no one can truly trust anyone else when someone like Reed is lurking and plotting their next move. The production of the segment itself deserves recognition. The camera work perfectly captured the shock and horror of the moment. The crowd reactions were genuine and powerful, adding to the overall impact of what was happening. The commentary team did an excellent job of conveying the gravity of the situation while also keeping the audience engaged and interested in what would happen next. Every element came together to create a truly memorable moment that will be replayed and discussed for weeks and months to come. This is the kind of content that reminds people why they fell in love with professional wrestling in the first place. Looking ahead, the potential matches and segments that could come from this storyline are incredibly exciting. A revenge match between Breakker and Reed would be absolutely explosive. Given the physical styles of both men and the personal animosity that now exists between them, you can expect something brutal and intense whenever they finally collide one-on-one. The build-up to that match will be essential, and if WWE handles it correctly, they could create one of the defining feuds of the year. There's also the possibility of Reed aligning with other heels on the roster, forming a new stable or faction that could dominate Raw for months. The options are endless, and that's what makes this such an intriguing development. The attack also raises questions about Reed's motivations that will need to be addressed. Was this purely about ambition and wanting to eliminate competition, or is there a deeper personal reason for the betrayal? Sometimes the best villains are the ones who believe they're justified in their actions, who have a twisted logic that makes sense to them even if nobody else agrees. If WWE can give Reed compelling reasons for what he did, reasons that make him more than just a generic bad guy, then this storyline could reach another level entirely. The complexity of character motivation is what separates good wrestling stories from great ones, and there's potential here for something truly great. Another fascinating aspect is how this affects both men's relationships with the rest of the roster. Will other wrestlers rally around Breakker, showing solidarity against such a cowardly attack, or will some see this as an opportunity to strike while he's vulnerable? Will anyone step forward to align with Reed, either because they respect his ruthlessness or because they fear becoming his next target? The ripple effects of one action can spread throughout the entire roster, creating new storylines and conflicts that keep things fresh and interesting for months. This is the kind of storytelling that makes weekly television appointment viewing, because you never know what might happen next. The timing of this attack also couldn't be more significant. With several major premium live events on the horizon, Reed has positioned himself as a major player at exactly the right moment. Whether he's challenging for a championship or involved in some other high-profile match, you can be certain that his betrayal of Breakker will be a central part of his character going forward. He's established himself as someone who cannot be trusted, but also as someone who is incredibly dangerous and willing to do whatever it takes to get ahead. That combination of traits makes for a compelling villain, and someone the audience will pay to see finally get their comeuppance. The WWE Universe has shown time and time again that they love a good betrayal storyline when it's done well. From legendary turns throughout wrestling history to modern-day storylines, the best betrayals are the ones that shock the audience, make logical sense in retrospect, and create long-term storytelling opportunities. Reed's attack on Breakker checks all of those boxes. Nobody saw it coming, but when you think about it, Reed was always the more calculating and methodical of the two, while Breakker was the explosive force of nature. Perhaps Reed realized that eventually Breakker would overshadow him and decided to strike first. That kind of psychological depth makes the story more interesting and gives fans something to discuss and debate. As we process everything that happened on this incredible episode of Monday Night Raw, one thing is crystal clear. Bronson Reed has announced himself as one of the most dangerous and unpredictable superstars on the entire roster. His savage attack on Bron Breakker was shocking, brutal, and completely unexpected. The fallout from this betrayal is going to dominate Raw programming for the foreseeable future, and we are all here for it. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel so you don't miss a single update on this developing situation, because trust me, things are only going to get more intense from here. The WWE landscape has been forever changed, and we can't wait to see what happens next in this incredible story.